know that the Infinite Campus, I had that on my phone, and whenever I see something red, I just take a screenshot and I put a capital letters, why, to my boys. Why is this? And then they will answer it and work it and do it right away. But how many of our immigrant communities, our poor families have that opportunity to do that? Not a lot. And how many of those families in the rural areas who did go to those schools and experience some trauma in those schools, and now their children are going to those same schools, are doing that because that trust is not built. So what we need to build in our teachers and in the schools is a relationship. It's a community building. That's one thing that we need to do. And all of those other things that we can work on will follow that. So but it's not happening the way we want it to happen. So I'm gonna just stop right here and let Emilia take over, and I'm open for any questions before Emilia takes over. And we can also talk about the COVID-19 and how the inequality and the equity piece is coming out.
So let's take any questions for right now, and then have Emilia, and then we'll come back to the COVID-19 focus. But do anybody want to raise your hand or wave to have a specific question for Decca? Seeing none, we will go on to Emilia. Thanks, Decca.
Thank you, Decca. I wanted to jump on one thing that you mentioned there about being the person in your community to talk to Muslim families about health education and physical education. And I think one really, really big takeaway from that piece is using community leaders to engage folks in that message, and not always thinking that we are the ones who can handle delivering this message or that we know how to talk about this, because every situation is different. But how can we build relationships with folks that already have established relationships in the community, that are seen, you know, in positions of respect and things like that. And really, the other piece is having students and families see themselves represented. And so I do just want to point out, if anyone has any, if you have any community in your school, whether it's Rwandan, Burundian, Congolese, Mexican, wherever your families are coming from, and you need support, reach out to Decca or reach out to myself, and we'd be happy to help find some community leaders who may be able to facilitate those conversations if it's necessary. But it is really, really important to engage in the community leaders to be sure that your message is getting across appropriately. Yes, Susan.
If I can add to that, Emilia, and to also maybe come up with some strategies about how to best deliver the message in a way that is received. So not to say to deliver it or not, but how do, which is what you were saying. But I just wanted to add that piece in, because I'm in favor of finding out ahead of time instead of having to react after. Let's find out what might be offensive, you know, or disturbing ahead of time to somebody.
And that's not only you teachers or those of you who are doing healthcare prevention, it's also people like myself as well. I cannot go to a space that occupied by a Burundian community and say, this is this and this and that. I cannot do that. Although they are from Africa, that doesn't mean I have their culture. That doesn't mean I have their religion. That doesn't mean I have their language. So I have to come around and have the best practices and find someone from their community who can send that message in a way that is understandable to them. So yeah, that's very important. Thanks for bringing that up, Emilia and Susan.
Denise has a question.
Yeah, thank you, ladies, for coming with us today. I live in Portland, so I have a great network of people that can help me do that. And some of the teachers are using something called talking points, but I don't really know what that is, because I usually just connect with the teachers that do that. But maybe if either one of you know anything about the talking points that can go through and help teachers communicate with families, that would be interesting to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't heard about the talking points. Have you, Emilia?
I have not, no.
But what really worked for me as a community leader is to connect with that family, especially if they pull their children out of physical activity classes, and just come around and say, what's the reason for that? What are you hearing? Because know that these families and parents are hearing something from he said, she says, like 3 or different information from different folks who might not have the specific curriculum and classroom activities that you guys have. So it's really important to have that first person understanding when your parents are not having their children go to classes.
Mm-hmm.
Decca, Madeline had a question about, well, you said you talk about the COVID-19 and inequity. So if you could,
I think she's going to do that though after Amelia talks for a few minutes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah, we can definitely go into that
Yeah.
quite a bit as well. Yeah, I think just on this one point, another thing is a lot of us talk about cultural competency, and there's really been a push now to think about it more as cultural responsiveness, because we can't be competent in every single culture that we have in the world, right? And we can't just learn, oh, well, Somalis do this and Russians do this and different people do this, because that doesn't apply. And we're also all individuals. You know, there's our layers of identity that are our nationality, our religion, our family background. There's so many other pieces to it. And so I really would encourage, if you are having these issues in your school or you're curious about these things, to really try to find some kind of training opportunity. There are so many great resources throughout the state of folks doing cultural responsiveness trainings, and a lot of them have gone virtual, and they exist now, very accessible ways and very affordable. And I would just really encourage folks to think about those kinds of trainings for their school staff if they haven't already. But I wanted to talk a little bit about migrant education. So to qualify, this is a federal program that states select to do. Maine does do this program. This is for families who are new to your district in the past 3 years and have someone in the household who has worked in agriculture or fishing. So the majority of our students have raked blueberries down east, or work in seafood, have someone working in seafood processing along the coast. And for students who do qualify, they are eligible to receive supplemental services through our subcontractor, Mono and Mono, who's based in Millbridge, but has offices throughout the state. And what they do is really just try to support the family and the student so that they can have academic success, but realizing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that we need to look at, does the kid have a winter jacket to be able to walk to school every day? And all these other pieces. Do they have access to food? Is home a safe place? And how can we support the students that way? So if you know, I saw some of the names on here for districts like Fort Fairfield, Oxford Hills, Portland. We've had students in all of these districts. Obviously, we are a statewide program. But if you know of any of your students who have someone in the home who has worked any kind of agriculture or fishing, fish processing, and has moved, they may be eligible for this support. And we do really good work working closely with the families. And during this time with COVID, we're doing weekly check-ins with every single one of our students, phone calls, or using WhatsApp to contact families, so it doesn't require any like cell phone credit or anything. Just goes off of Wi-Fi, and really just connecting to families and saying, what needs do you have right now and how can we support you? A huge thing that we are hearing about is obviously connectivity, having the devices to be able to connect and access remote learning, having the internet, but also having the computer literacy to really be able to go in and connect to Google Classrooms, and having the parents be able to support that. So those are all some things just to think about. We also do parent advisory councils during regular times in person every year. So we bring parent leaders together and do some kind of learning together, and also talk about the program and how we can improve it for their needs. This year it was scheduled to be in April, and obviously this all happened, so our team decided to take it virtual. And I do just want to share this story really quickly because I think it really speaks to how much we can do with a little bit of investment. And so our team invited, I think it was 15 parents to join. They all had the Zoom link, they all logged in. And the first 30 minutes of the meeting was, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Can you see me? And all of this technical support that's required for 30 entire minutes, right? In Spanish, in English, in French, in all these other languages with the interpreters. It was just so much technical assistance to get it sorted out. And then for the remaining 1 hour that they had this really meaningful discussion. It was super positive. And at the end of it, the team asked the parents, so how often would this be worthwhile for you guys? How often should we do this? We've been doing this once a year. And the parents said, well, if we don't have to go anywhere and we can join from our computer and now we know how, let's do this every month. So we're seeing a huge increase in family engagement right now in that sense, when I think a lot of us are thinking, oh, this is going to be too complicated, pulling in all these different players and the interpreters and da-da-da-da-da, it's just too much. But that little investment of 30 minutes is making this possible now to be a monthly thing for parents to connect to each other and to the program. So I just wanted to share that really briefly. And then the other piece that I do work with is the McKinney-Vento program. So students experiencing homelessness. Every district has a McKinney-Vento liaison, so you should know who that person is for your district if you know of any students who may be experiencing homelessness. And for this, the definition really is lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. But the big thing here is it also can include families that are doubled up. So if you have a student who is living with another family because their housing isn't adequate or safe or whatever it is, that student would qualify as homeless even if they do technically have a roof over their head. So I think that's just a big push that we're trying to get that information out to be able to better identify and serve our students who qualify for this support. McKinney-Vento's support can be, helping with school supplies, transportation, free lunch, those kinds of things, but also just connecting to that liaison and having that person at school that they can depend on. Foster care also has a point of contact in each district, so any students in foster care should be connected to that point of contact if you all know of situations in your districts about that. But I will turn it back to you, Decca. I just wanted to go over those real briefly.
Decca, before you start, can I ask Amelia a couple clarifying points? If anybody had a question of whether or not a student was homeless, they could contact you to verify if they qualify, correct? And
yep, they could, or their liaison.
I was going to say, and every school has a liaison. They should just ask their superintendents who that person is if they don't know, or their principal.
Yep, every district has a liaison. And that information is available on NEO as well.
And if for any reason, I can't imagine this happening, but if for any reason somebody reaches out about a student and doesn't feel like they get the answer, an adequate answer for that student's going to be taken care of, again, you can reach out to Amelia and she will help be a facilitator for making sure that needs are taken care of.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And so for migrant students, we do not have district staff who work with migrant students solely. So those would be referrals, if you have any referrals for those, to go directly to me and I can connect those.
And Amelia, could you put the mano a mano contact into the chat box, and then I can copy and paste that into our document that everybody has access to?
Yep, absolutely.
And I saw, Chris, thank you for putting the talkingpoints.org into the chat box. So I will share that with Amelia and Decca, and they can look into that and find out more about that as well. So, all right, back to you, Decca.
I was just reading Eric's question, not question, but the comment about, hi Eric, about the folks who are, their socioeconomic is very low, and the rural Mainers, and also poor folks that we have all over this state. And COVID-19 is really making us see that in a different lens. So in my area, Greater Portland area, and the southern Maine, what I see is 100% for reduced lunch. And also what I'm seeing is that families who do not have any food whatsoever. And this is not only immigrant families, it's white families, it's everybody. And it's really extremely sad to see that, because I go to Portland and also South Portland schools, nutrition buses giving out food for families every single day, 11 to 1 p.m. in South Portland, and also in 5 places, and also in Portland in about 10 different schools. And it's really, really sad to see the fact that some families are going to all of these places to pick up food. And it really brings us to a space that how that's even possible. We are the richest country in the world, and we have our children really hungry. And I cannot wrap around my head on that, and that really saddens me. And I go out every single day to help out and give out food, and that food is not enough. So Properly Street Food Resource Center is giving out. Presenta, it's a new organization that just formed just to give out food. There are the Locker Project, all of those folks giving out food. And when it comes to also connectivity, which Eric also talked about, we are asking families who are poor and families who do not speak English and does not understand connectivity as it is, if you break this machine, we're gonna charge you money. And how are those families gonna accept this machines that we are providing, which Mary and Beth and at the DOE level are giving out? So we have to come up with some ways, some kind of language when we are doing or providing services to poor folks, and also folks who are not have any connection whatsoever in our schools. This is a great opportunity that we have today for this COVID-19 time to engage and connect in our families in a way that we can say, we see you, we are here for you, and we are serving you. And the teachers should be looked at as the heroes. That is something I am promoting every single day, and to get off of this emotional speech that I am doing right now. My 20-year-old is a sophomore at USM, and I am forcing him to be a teacher. Literally, I'm forcing him to be a teacher because he has that kind of heart. He has a teacher's heart, because teachers' hearts are huge. So I am doing that for him and saying that there are so many kids who look like you, who can look up to you and learn and become a teachers in the future. So it is really sad what we are seeing in the COVID-19 era. And to get back to the connectivity piece, I jumped on a webinar for ELL teachers about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And most of the teachers were talking about how they miss their students and how they want to provide internet or hotspots for their families that do not speak English. And they are looking for someone who can help them. So it was our job to look for someone who can help that teacher and make their job easier, because what you guys doing right now is out of this world. So anything that we can do to support you and make sure that your job is a little bit more easier for you when it comes to connecting with folks who are in the immigrant community, or folks who are poor families that are having hard time even putting food on the table for their families, please let us know so that we can help you for even in a smaller way. Sometimes me and Amelia end up working till 10 o'clock at night because families are connecting with us, not only asking for food, but also asking for diapers for their small children. for the babies. That is not our job. That's not something that we can do. But we must do that and find out resources so that we can have these families sleep well at night at their homes and know that they have this diaper for their children. So I hear you. Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, 2 quick points. There's a pretty cool show on now called Some Good News by John Krasinski from The Office. Yeah. And he just shares a bunch of human interest stories. And but I was watching it last night, and there was a couple somewhere in the nation that started a food pantry right on their lawn. And they just have free food out front. I graduated off Stevens Ave there where Westbrook College used to be. It's now UNE. Yeah. But man, down there somewhere in the Portland area, Bangor, all our cities, that could be a cool little thing for our students maybe to set up. During our winter carnival this year, we had each class compete collecting items for a food pantry. And the cans and stuff that was collected was incredible. It overwhelmed our weight room. It was just everywhere. And it didn't take our students long, man. They were passionate about it. And I know our food pantry up here is very well stocked. But I also know it's probably just sitting there, you know, putting this stuff outside on the lawn somewhere under a tent, and just offering it to kids that don't have food. I think we all realize now working in schools that there are a lot more kids not eating than people from the outside realize, even in a town like Fort Kent. So that's my 2 cents. Take it to the bank.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, I think, you know, I agree with what you're saying, Eric, but what I learned last week in our conversations with, though, like I said, it was a small group. One day, there were only 3 people on with Jean and I, but from 3 very different areas of the state. And our conversation was around the difference in what somebody in Portland or South Portland has to do if they're going outside and coming back in the home compared to someone who is in a rural part of the state. The thinking is just totally different. And so I think that's one of the things is you could probably put the food out on the lawn in a rural place and feel comfortable about somebody picking it up. Decca, Amelia, I'm not sure that you could do that in Cumberland County right now or York County. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the human power can do so many things if we let it. And sometimes we are, so for example, I see families of, let's say, a family of 10, and mom, dad, and 8 kids. 6 of those kids are school-age kids. Mom and dad do not speak no English, do not know nothing about internet, and they live in a really confined space. And even the mental health in that space is not healthy itself. And when you put on top of that poverty and hunger, it becomes even harder. And sometimes people don't even go out to get what they need, right? I was on the Children's Cabinet committee meeting last week, and some of the doctors were talking about the telehealth, that there is a need for that. People need to connect with the telehealth, and the kids, 2, 4-year-olds, 6, 7, need to get their shots and vaccinations. So I said, how is that even possible for somebody who may not have internet in rural Maine? How is going to be impossible for somebody who do not speak English and cannot even log on to internet? So one of the doctors interrupted me and said that, oh, they also have phone calls. You can call. I'm like, still, there is huge barrier when it comes to that. So you need to have outreach workers helping each and every family when it comes to connectivity, whether it is food, whether it is healthcare, whether it is vaccinations, all of those things that we are seeing now, that is a need for all of our families from the south to the north to the east to the west. There is a need for that right now. And if we do not do something about it, it's going to be really disastrous for us. And I do not know how it's going to look like coming back from COVID-19 to schools. I cannot even wrap that around my head. Do not even know how that's going to look like. But it is different. It's different, each and every one of us, how we do things now and also in the future. I know that the commissioner is saying promoting self-care and social emotional learning and all of those good things. But then again, we're sitting on this thing in our own homes, in our own ways. And we're having all of these things in our heads. Okay, now the economy is going down. How can we boost that up? Should we just open everything and be unhealthy later on? So it's so many things that are coming to us every single day in our way. And I cannot handle it anymore. Can I just say that? Am I in a safe place to say that? Yes. You know, and I mean, for you guys, even thinking about your children, it's just, yeah, I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm just so.
It's a challenge.
It is a huge challenge, and I shouldn't been talking this much because I'm fasting too. It's Ramadan. I'm in my day 5 for fasting. But imagine, you know, imagine your kids now, they're all fasting. Some of your kids, they're all That's fasting, right. and they may not even doing any physical activities or anything because they are trying to, I'm losing my words, to keep their energy to themselves. But
and that's a good point. Again, something else to consider when you're thinking about your kids. Do you know kids that are celebrating right now and are fasting? So I think Chris is sending you a message, Decca, where there is a will, there's way. Stay positive, be safe, and active. He's our cheerleader. We love that about him. And I just want to go back to what Eric was saying also. And so his comment was, there is a way to get the food out there. You just have to think about like the farmers markets. And they're kind of like farmers markets, but they're seafood markets that are happening. I know along the coast, they're doing that to help the fishermen and lobstermen and all. We all want some of that, Eric.
Give me food.
You're teasing Decca
until sundown.
But you know, there are ways to set up to do that. So if somebody wanted to do that as a community service piece with the kids, they would just have to make sure that they follow the protocols, which is a life lesson for them about how to do that safely and to help their neighbors in that situation. Amelia, you unmuted, so I'm thinking you have something to share with us. And if you need to ask a question, either wave or put your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I just wanted to add on to the Ramadan piece. I think it's so important to, if your students disclose that to you, or if you know this information, to really understand what Ramadan truly entails. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that people think it's just fasting from sunrise to sundown or sunset. But it's abstaining from water, it's abstaining from, you know, any food, any drink, and there's so much else that goes into it. And Ramadan is really, I mean, obviously Decca can speak to this more than I can, but it is a celebratory time as well. And there's so much right now that families are really, I feel like grieving is kind of a strong word, but I think it does apply in this situation. You know, we are all grieving right now anytime there's a birthday party that isn't happening or a baby shower. But Ramadan is a time for communities to come together and for people to come together every single night to break fast and to go to the mosque, and all of those pieces are not there right now. So this is a very, very difficult time for so many families around the state, just in that sense of community. Decca, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Yes, you abstain from food, from water, from bad deeds, bad things. You must do good things and charity, give back. Even if you don't have anything, give back your time. It's not telling you to sit back and do not do anything. It's always doing something and giving back to your community and the broader community. It doesn't say it has to be only Muslims that you are giving back to, by the way. It is for every human being that you can think of. So for me, when I cook for sundown, I took some food to my next door neighbor and just leave it at her door and say, hey, Erin, I left you some food at the door. And she just loves my food. And I've been doing this for a long time anyway, but she's like, Ramadan fasting, I need my food. So I do that. And it's really important for the soul, for us as humans, as people. It's very important to us. I think Eric wrote something about the Native Americans. Yes, it is really affecting them because they are isolated where they are at the reservations. We have a meeting with the people of color and immigrants and Native Americans over the weekend, and we're going to be talking about that. We have a couple of their leaders coming onto that Zoom on Saturday. But what I'm also hearing is that in New Mexico, a lot of the Navajo tribes are really, really being affected by the COVID-19. And the reasons this COVID-19 is affecting a lot of Black and Brown and folks who are Native Americans is because they do not have the healthcare that some of us do have, or they have multiple chronic illnesses that are causing them to affected by or affected the COVID-19 even more so than any of us who might not have other chronic illnesses. So those are the things. And also some hospitals, and this is what I'm hearing, it could be wrong, I'm not sure, some hospitals are sending Black people back and saying that, oh, you don't have the symptoms, you just can go back. And I'm hearing that's happening in New York, and that's why they have a higher number of people dying there. But whatever it is, it's just something that we need to come together for it this time around and just see ourselves as one human family and do what we can for one another. And I love Maine. I love Maine. And what we're doing is amazing. It is amazing, and helping each other and doing the best we can. And that is priceless to me. That's so priceless to me. And thank you, each and every one of you, for what you're doing in your own small way that you're doing. And if you can do a little bit more, please do so, because it makes a difference for folks.
Decca, I want Denise. I'm not seeing you at the moment, but I know you're out there in the world.
Yeah, I'm somewhere.
Here. Can you speak to what you just wrote in the chat box?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that my student wellness committee, we meet on Thursdays by Zoom, and the kids came up with an idea that Friday's May Day, and so we're going to send out a Be Kind campaign so kids can go and rake somebody's yard, or, you know, put the flowers on the door, or help somebody out, or do something like that. And then we are having a contest where if the kids do something, they can take a picture of it or write a poem and post it on Padlet. And then we are giving prizes out because we got a $1,000 grant from 5210. So we're going to be using some of that money to give the kids prizes and try to promote the Be Kindness campaign in around for the students at Lincoln. So we're hoping it's successful.
So Denise, did you do a conversation with them about the whole COVID-19 and what they need to practice for safe behaviors in order to do these things? How were the kids?
It's all in the flyer. We have our principal's great. She's sending out an iMessage to all the families on the phone. So when they get snow days or whatever, we have that system set up. So that's going to be posted on there, and we're talking about social distancing and the 6 feet apart and wash your hands and all of that stuff is in the blurb. So yeah, following all the rules.
Yeah, I just wonder, how were the kids in the conversation you had with them about the importance of, let's do this, but you have to do it within the parameters of COVID-19? Were they like, okay, or what kind of response did you get from them?
Yeah, they just kind of go, yeah, we're going to do that. I mean, I think they've kind of already adjusted to the new normal. Us are having a harder time. They're just going, every time my friends go, oh yeah, I go out to see my friends, but we're 6 feet away. You know, they're very good at clarifying how far they're staying away from their friends. And, you know, I know it's not happening because I see teens around town all hanging out together and doing stuff. So I know it's not 100%, but I guess the more that are doing it, the better it is for all of it. So we're just trying to get kids engaged in school in a positive way. All the academics and stuff is a little bit overwhelming. And speaking of some of my immigrant students, they're having a hard time. I'm doing Zoom one-on-one with them, and I love the screen share so they can have their computer up and I just go to this, go here. Do you see where I'm at? Follow the mouse, go here. It takes about 30 minutes per student, but I guess you do the old scenario, you're saving one student, so they call in. I'm trying to do the best, just like all of you have, as I've heard over the weeks, talking about how everybody's reaching out to kids and trying to, you know, make them feel connected and everything. So, well, we'll hope this May Day thing worked. I was telling Eric, one of my students jumped onto his Jump 19 COVID thing, and he was sending me emails every day, or videos of him doing his jumping in his room. I made a certificate in my office, and I mailed it to him the other day to say, you get the certificate for Jump 19. And so, you know, you got one kid doing that and another kid doing this. So I guess every one of us is out there trying to, you know, make an impact or help one or two kids out there that we possibly can during this time. So anyway, May Day's Friday. You might want to, like, maybe send something out and do act of kindness around Maine. That'd be great.
I think it's a great idea, Denise. Thank you. I was also
not mine. My students, okay. Not mine. My students.
Great student idea, and that's what we like to hear, those positive stories. And I want to go back to something that I don't remember if it was you or Amelia or Decca, but one of the things that we've heard a lot from the teachers over the last few weeks, and just before vacation, there was quite a bit of conversation, the concern about the students are not hearing from. So if there are still, you know, some that they just don't know what it is, are there any suggestions you have around getting to those students that they can't connect with?
Yeah, I mean, we have the same issue all the time with our migrant students and trying to find any way to get back in touch with them. Our kids move around a lot. They're all over the place. So trying to keep in touch can be so tricky in any time, let alone right now. So I would really, you know, think about texting, calling, trying WhatsApp. You can download that app and see if they have an account through there. Thinking about, you know, obviously email and using the online platforms, but outside of that, what else can we do regarding like socially distant home visits, or sending mail to the house, or contacting another family that you think may have contact with that family or live next door to them, or, you know, what other ways can we be in touch? Those are the approaches that we take. We look up the student information in Synergy, try to find if there's a different phone number anywhere, try to find, you know, calling again after the start of the next month in case they just paid off their bill for that month. Thinking, just really thinking strategically about all of that. Becca, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think that is a good idea to do it, but also what I've seen, and this is a question to the teachers, I've seen a lot of kids in my area that I live in South Portland, Brick Hill area. I don't know if you are familiar with that. There's a huge green space. And I see some of the kids play, siblings, 3 of them playing soccer, age 2 to 9. And will that be considered a physical activity? And how can they call you as a teacher and say, this is what I did? Can you count it? Do you want them to videotape themselves doing it, or do you take it from their word? I see also kids riding bikes. My next door neighbor, Chris, is riding his bike, and he is a first grader around the area. And I'm like, that is physical activity. And his mom has a mental health, so I don't know if she is connecting with schools and telling them, this is what Chris been doing for an hour a day. So those are questions that I have. Maybe you guys can answer it so that I can talk to these families and say, hey, you can call your teacher and do this.
Yeah, so if folks could raise their hand or wave at me, and let's share a few things that you're looking for from the students that you could, then Becca and or Amelia could share back with the parents and the families, that these are the things you want to be talking to your teachers about. Who would like to share? Ralph?
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Hey.
Whenever I give out my assignments for PE, the exercise activities that we're going to do, on the bottom of my assignment is like a sub-assignment. And I say to them, when you send this back to me, document any activities you've done this week. And I count all of that activity. So if they're riding their bike, just this morning I was going through, and I try to give each student a personal statement. When they send the information back, I'll send them a personal comment. Excellent job on laser tag. So this week, my sub-assignment was list the activities that you did during vacation. So some of the kids did laser tag, some of the kids rode the bikes, went on hikes with families, walked the dog. One of the students talked about making a big dinner for the family. That's a cooperative activity. So, and I know a lot of other phys ed teachers are doing the exact same thing. You give out your assignment, and I call it like a sub-assignment under that. Tell me the things you're doing, because all those things count. So I hope that answers your question.
That's great. Thank you, Ralph. Chris? And Ralph is elementary, by the way. Chris, high school?
Yeah, I'm high school PE. I started out with a journal entry. Communications with key with any teacher. That's the thing. I started out with a journal entry, and now we're getting into the phase 3, develop a new plan. And now we're starting a DIY, build your own miniature golf course inside your home with what you have. This is amazing. The kids are like, I got duct tape golf balls. I'm jacking my wife's vacuum cleaner, taking all the hoses. The broom's gone. The poker for the chimney. You use what you got, because some of these kids can't go outside. And that's okay. So we embrace what you have, use your mind, track everything. Some of these kids want more, want more, want more. Write it down. We can work together. Send me a picture. It's worth 1,000 words. If they don't like to write, send me a picture. Draw a picture. They get to map out their own course, but they have to be safe. They have to be respectful. They have to be involved. And most of all, they have to be active and positive. And a smile will be contagious. Their family will spread. Their neighbor will be interactive. Why are they laughing next door? They're playing mini golf in their home. Who wouldn't want to play mini golf? We got COVID-19. We got Falcon balls. We have a golf ball made out of Band-Aids. You know, please ask your parents before you take their Band-Aids. So, but you guys are awesome. Thanks.
You could combine an art project with the mini golf and, you know, do the whole, what is that stuff called? That's that
merging
glue,
classes.
That glue and newspaper. That's right. Exactly. So great. Thank you. Do we have someone else who wants to share? Denise?
Unmute. Yeah. I was going to say the Open PE sends out a calendar, so I've been using that as everybody, but I kind of changed the topics to say, what are you doing? Because our standard 3 says it's one of ours, can maintain positive, active physical activity. And so for my standard 3, I'm using that calendar so kids can write in what the choice of their activity is and submit it in just by a quick little acknowledgement, like I went skateboarding or I rode my bike, and to try to get 60 minutes a day. So thanks to all the people out in the world that have the technology skills to make these beautiful little calendars and their Word documents, so you can change and adapt to what you're doing at your own school, but you don't have to recreate the whole wheel. So I'm using that calendar for my standard 3 documentation that the kids are meeting the standard for by doing just exactly what you said, getting credit for doing what they're doing at their houses. And thanks for the mini golf idea. I think I'm going to use that.
That is awesome. I think it's great. And that's a good opportunity for me to remind folks that we do have the share folder. And in that share folder are the materials that people have been sending to me, and I upload them. Over during vacation week, I rearrange the folder a little bit. So now when you go in, there's a folder of PE resources that have been shared and of health education resources that have been shared. If they're not in one of those folders, it's because it applies to both. But there are some of those calendars in there that people have shared. So I wanted to make sure folks knew that. So we are coming up. That went by, the last half hour went by quick. So I want to give the opportunity for Decca and Amelia to have some closing comments. And remind folks, if you have not signed in, last name, comma, first name, comma, school, comma, district is our new format. And I will be copying and pasting the chat box and the ideas that are in there. And just want to let Decca and Amelia know in particular, some people had to go to other meetings. So when people have left, that's because they had to go somewhere else. And lots of thank yous to both of you. But go ahead, Amelia, and then Decca.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It has been really helpful for me to learn more about the work that you do and how it's looking during this time. I appreciate all the things that you guys are doing for your students and also your flexibility. As we know, not all students are in the same situation. So thank you so much. Feel free to reach out if there's anything I can help with. It's just amelia.lyons@maine.gov, or Susan can connect us, or Jean. And I just really appreciate it. It's nice talking to everyone.
Thanks, Amelia. Decca?
Everything she said.
All right.
Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for the work that you're doing. And I do always fight for teachers. Where I'm from, in my culture, teachers are your second parent, period. What the teachers say goes. There is no other question. And one of the things that really made me happy was all my 3 children who were born and raised in this country and went public schools. My youngest 19, each and every time I go for a parent-teacher conference, the teacher says, your kids are really wonderful to have, and they are really good and respectful kids. And my daughter was really good at school, but the boys were not. So they will say, well, they're struggling, but they're at least respectful. I said, that's something, you know, I did something. So I want to thank you for each and every one of you for the work that you do each and every day. And also this COVID-19 thing is making us all work even harder than we had before, and hang in there. We're going to see another day, which is brighter and COVID-free, hopefully soon. But hang in there and stay healthy and stay happy and keep on moving. And Eric, you made me happy today. So you gave me a lot of energy. I love it.
he does that for us. He and Chris definitely pump us all up. So yeah, thank you so much. Jean, you want to say something before we go?
Oh, this was fantastic. Really enjoyed the interaction with everybody. Lots of great thoughts and comments and things. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia and Decca. We appreciate you joining us. We have a great group of health education, physical education teachers, and they're doing great things. Just to let folks